You hear the word average thrown around constantly, right? The average price of a house, the average grade on an exam. But what if I told you that word can be incredibly misleading? That there are actually 3 different ways to find an average, and picking the wrong one can totally flip the story the numbers are trying to tell.
To show you what I mean, let's just dive right in with a little puzzle. On the screen, you've got 10 salaries from a small company. Now, most of them are kind of clustered together, but you probably noticed those last 2. They're a lot higher. So here's my question for you. What's the typical salary here? Just get a number in your head. Don't worry, we are definitely coming back to this one.
So before we can even solve that puzzle, we need to figure out what we're actually looking for. What we're trying to do is find a single number that can stand in for a whole group of data. We're on a hunt to find the center.
And, in statistics, this has a proper name, a measure of central tendency. I know, it sounds a little academic, but it's really just a fancy way of saying we're finding one value to summarize an entire list of numbers. Think of it like the main character of a movie. It's the single representative for the whole dataset.
Okay, so how do we actually find the central value? Well, it turns out we've got a few different ways to do it. I like to think of it as having a statistical toolbox. You wouldn't use a hammer to turn a screw, right? It's the exact same idea here. You've got to pick the right tool for the data you're working with.
And here they are, our 3 main tools: the mean, the median, and the mode. Let's think of them as the 3 superheroes of our story today, and each one has its own special power.
First up, we've got the one you're probably most familiar with, the mean. This is what we all learned in school as the average. The method is super simple. Just add up all the numbers, then divide by how many there are. Easy peasy.
Next up in the toolbox is the median. The median is all about one thing: position. All you do is line up your numbers from smallest to largest, and you pick the one that's sitting right in the dead center. It's the true middle of the pack.
And last but not least, we have the mode. The mode is basically the most popular kid in the class. It's just the number or category that shows up more often than any of the others. It's all about what's trending in your data.
All right, enough with the definitions, right? Let's get our hands dirty and actually put these tools to work. We're going to start with a nice, simple example to see how each one works in the wild. So, imagine we're at an airport, and we've just weighed the luggage for 11 different passengers. As you can see, it's just a jumble of numbers. Our mission is to find the center of this data.
Okay, now if we want to find the median, what's the absolute number 1 rule? We have to get organized. So we take that random list of weights and we line them all up in order, from the lightest bag to the heaviest.
And voila! Once they're all in order, finding the median is a piece of cake. We have 11 numbers, so the one smack dab in the middle is the 6th one in the line. And as you can see, that number is 20 kilograms. Simple as that.
So if we run the numbers for all 3 of our tools, here's what we get. The mean is about 20.6 kilograms. The median, which we just found, is 20 kilos, and the mode, the most frequent number, is also 20 kilos because it shows up 3 times. So in this case, all 3 measures are telling us pretty much the same story. But, and this is a huge but, it's not always this neat and tidy. What happens when your data gets a little messy? This is where things get really interesting, and where choosing the right tool for the job becomes absolutely crucial. Okay, let's circle all the way back to our factory salary puzzle. Remember those 2 really high salaries, the 90,000 and the 120,000? Well, in statistics, we call these outliers because they live way outside the neighborhood of the rest of the data. And these outliers, they have a secret power to warp our perception.
So let's try using our old friend, the mean. The typical, average. We add up all 10 salaries, we divide by 10, and the number we get is $33,000.
But hold on a second. Let's really think about that. Does 33 grand actually feel like a typical salary at this factory? I mean, look at the data. 8 out of the 10 people make $18,000 or less. That $33,000 number feels kind of high, doesn't it?
And this is where the light bulb goes off. Let's put the mean and the median right next to each other. The mean at 33,000 got totally dragged upwards by those 2 big salaries. But the median, the actual middle value on the list, is only $16,000. That is a huge difference.
So here's the big takeaway. That median salary of 16 grand paints a much more honest and accurate picture of what the typical employee is actually taking home. And why is that?
Because the median's superpower is that it just doesn't care about those extreme high or low values. It only looks at the middle, which makes it resistant to those powerful outliers.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract math problem. Understanding this difference is a genuine life skill. It's about being a critical thinker when you see data in the news and reports at work, everywhere.
So here's a super simple cheat sheet for your statistical toolbox. The mean is your go-to when your data is pretty balanced and doesn't have any crazy outliers. You want to reach for the median when you do have those outliers, which is super common with stuff like income or home prices. And the mode? That's your hero when you're dealing with categories instead of numbers. I mean, think about it. You can't calculate the mean favorite color, right? Or the average type of car someone drives. It just doesn't make sense. But you can find the most popular one. In this chart, the bus is clearly the modal choice. The mode is the only tool that can find the center for this kind of data.
And that really brings us to the core lesson of all this. Being able to just pause for a second and ask, hey, wait a minute, which average are they actually talking about? Is it the mean, the median? That is a legitimate superpower. It helps you look past the headline number and see the real story the data is telling.
So I'll leave you with this one final thought. The next time you see a news report or an article that mentions an average salary or an average home price, what's the first question that's going to pop into your head? Because now you know, asking which average makes all the difference in the world.